So this is a demonstration of one feature of SMFFTI, which is my little Windows program for helping me to generate creative MIDI clips. SMFFTI stands for Simple MIDI Files from Text Input. The original concept of SMFFTI was to be able to specify chord progression data in plain text files, then have SMFFTI read those files and generate MIDI clips. I can achieve a number of things with the program, but I'm just going to highlight one useful feature, that of creating MIDI files containing percussive patterns for use with drum racks and such like. SMFFTI has a couple of commands that are specially designed to create randomised drum and percussion beat patterns, breakbeats, fills, etc. that are useful for jungle and drum and bass tracks, and I'll show you how they work. SMFFTI is a bit nerdy, I'm afraid. It works on somewhat arcane commands entered at a prompt, but I find it adequate for the time being. Here's my working directory where I've got a couple of basic files. SMFFTI_init.cmd sets up the environment for running SMFFTI. It's a Windows command file and specifies a couple of environment variables, the location of the SMFFTI executable, etc. Double-clicking on this file opens a command window, and then I just type go and it runs SMFFTI in pseudo graphical user interface mode. It's very simplistic, but it works well enough. The splash screen is totally pointless, of course. I ignore this default chord progression shown on the screen because I'm concerned only with creating percussion patterns. Let's just switch to Ableton Live, where I have this 2-bar drum break audio clip. It sounds like this. I'm using this clip in a drum rack and the break is spliced into 53 hits. What I want is a MIDI clip that plays random hits from this audio clip contained in the drum rack. To do this, I can use command DFC, which means drum fill clip. The DFC command is intended for drum instruments that typically contain individual drum sounds, kick, snare, hi-hat, etc. The MIDI clips produced will contain randomly between 1 and 4 notes playing together. So now at the SMFFTI command prompt, I'll enter the DFC command. It takes a minimum of 3 input parameters. Firstly, the number of notes to choose from, up to a maximum of 60, let's say 48. The starting note, which is C1, and the length of the clip in bars to a maximum of 16, let's say 4. By default we get a MIDI file called dfc.mid, which I'll drop into Ableton Live. Notice that the note positions are not strictly quantized and the velocities all vary. This is an attempt to humanise the playing. The selection of notes is completely random and it may not sound right until I move the notes around a bit, but the clip has given me a useful starting point. Notice also that by default all the notes are eighths. If I want to add a few sixteenths, I can ask for this in the command. For example, DFC 48 C1 8, and then I enter a percentage value, 70, which means a 70% chance of eighth notes, meaning a 30% chance of sixteenths. Once again, I drop it into Ableton Live and play about with it. By the way, if I want a different name for the MIDI file, I can just specify that at the end of the command. For example, DFC 48 C1 870 and then fred.mid, for example. There is a similar command to the DFC command, but I call this one the monophonic percussive clip command, MPC. This differs from the DFC command in as much as it produces MIDI clips that play only a single note at a time. The reason for this is because these clips are intended for playing individual snippets from samples that typically contain multiple instruments playing at the same time. It's not likely you want polyphonic playing of such samples. As a simple example, let's try it with an Amen break. I've got an edited version here in this audio track. It sounds like this, of course. Now I'll drop it into an instance of Simpler. Then we slice it up according to beats on eighth notes. So now we have 32 slices. The MPC command format is exactly the same as that of DFC, so I'll enter MPC 32, we'll start from note C1 and we want a 4-bar clip. I've now got a file called mpc.mid which I drop into Ableton Live. Instantly I've got a randomly chopped up Amen break. Note that the notes are all quantized in this case and the velocity is the same for all notes. Again, by default the notes are all eighths. Let's try adding some sixteenths. It's the same command but a 70% chance of eighths, thus a 30% chance of sixteenths. We enter MPC 32 C1 4 and then 70. Again, drag it into Ableton Live, see how it sounds and mess about with it until I get a breakbeat I like. So there we are. I've got a simple way of generating MIDI clips that can be used with drum samples to help build creative breakbeats and fills. I haven't yet used it significantly, but I hope I'm going to find it useful. This video is in fact mainly intended for me, so that in the future I have a quick way of recalling how it works. Just a bit of fun. Thanks for watching.